It is now 2:00.
Yeah.
Like to call the meeting to, now, first we shall, let's flag, then I'll call the meeting to order.
Wait, call the meeting to order first, and then we do the flag.
Doesn't matter.
Yes.
I'll call the meeting to order. Let's flag.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, I am going to read.
Make sure your microphone is on, and that one you have to eat pretty much, so,
Easy.
yeah, but you have to, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
All right, this is a script for all chairman. Members of the committee, please keep the red button on the mic in the up position.
Yours is out, that's down.
Do not mute your mics. For those attending virtually, keep your mics off until you're ready to speak. If your mic is on, we have somebody sitting in the corner over there that will shut it off for you. She's smiling. Virtual members, comment in the section in Teams. Do you want to explain what Teams is?
Teams is the virtual platform that people online are using to access the meeting. There is a chat area in Teams where they can either raise their hand, I'll be monitoring the screen, or if they'd like to make a comment, they can do so in the chat area in Teams in the meeting.
Now I'm allowed to take a roll call vote.
Morning, Nathan Fell present. Alan Steinbeck here.
Peggy here.
John Bregan here. Andy Robinson here.
Sharon Cordy here. Laura Leroy here.
And last, if you have trash, please put it in the receptacle in the back. Did I complete?
I don't have it memorized, so I trust you. It's new. Georgia just changed it, so. Yeah, mute your cell phones. Is that on there? Please turn off cellular devices. Did she skip that? That's number 4 on this one. It's after roll call and
I
before
don't have a
crash.
cell phone.
Yeah, I know, but they need to turn theirs off.
They better.
Is that in there or did she miss that?
No, it's.
Okay, so you just skipped it.
All right, any public comments?
Yes, I have 2. I have 2. There are 2, I should say. First one is from Carol Pankow regarding agenda items 7L and 7M. And I remind you that you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm here today,
Make sure you know who you are for the record.
Carol Pankow, member of GSCDD, but here today as a former member of PPAC. And I would very much like to urge you to put a representative from the PPCA on this board as a sort of like board seat. I think the committee should stay at 7. It's an odd number, but that way your quorum is at 4. If you go to 8, then your quorum is at 5. So I think it makes sense to stay at 7. I know you have a vacancy right now, but boards change. And I think at some point there will probably be a change in this board again also. And at that time, you should put a member on the board, the 7th member, that is also sitting on the Community Association Board. And I also think that you should, in essence, designate that as a board seat. So you'd have to serve on the board, on the Community Association Board, and also serve on this board. You would have 2 hats, in essence. And then if terms change or you are no longer on one board, on the Community Association Board, then you are no longer on the PPAC board also. And somebody from the new board would be appointed to have that seat by the Community Association Board. They should appoint their own representative to this board. I don't think it's within the PPAC's position to pick somebody from their board. I see it as a voice on this board from one to the other. And I think when you're in a committee setting and you're talking to each other, it's much easier to be more respectful of each other. There's been some contention in the past, and to be quite honestly, I was here for that, and I'd like to see that go away. I would like to see some peace come in the next N number of months. And I think a good first step to that would be to have a position on the PPAC board that that person also is a board member of the community association, not a designee, not somebody who's already served there, but a direct voice from the community association to this board. And I think to do that, you'd have to amend the original ordinance that put PPAC in place. We did that maybe a year ago in fall. We formalized all that with the duties and responsibilities, but to add that kind of member here, I believe would be very important to heal things on both sides. And as, what was the gentleman that said, why can't we all just get along? I think it would help. That's my personal opinion. The second thing
Time's
is
up.
in
Sorry,
that,
your time is up.
okay,
I have a question though. Is that person going to be our seventh member or in addition to the seven
the
members?
seventh member.
So it would only be
Right.
six, but they would be our seventh.
So if you guys decide to seat Ed today, then whenever you get around to amending the ordinance and putting that in place, then the next vacancy that would come on the PPAC board would be that designated seat.
Okay.
You're already in the
We'll
board.
have Ed, because he's been here for the last 3 meetings, actually. We
Ed's,
wanted to vote him in.
yes, Ed's thing is already in process.
Okay.
But, and you guys haven't decided if you want to do this or not. I'm just, as somebody who has sat on PPAC before, I think that additional voice would be very beneficial to PPAC. And I'm expressing this as my personal opinion.
Have they expressed that they want to have a person on this board?
Yeah, we can have that discussion when we get down to those items on the agenda.
Sorry.
So the Community Association Board of Directors has not proposed a recommendation for membership to this board.
They have not proposed that we can talk about it when we get to that item on the
Okay.
agenda.
I believe it was something that was talked about. It is not in the agreement part of it.
Okay, so it appears based on what you're saying is that items Lima and Mike need to be revised to identify when a position is available on the board.
No,
No.
I think the service agreement would be between, basically between staffs, how they're going to work together. I see M as a completely different thing. This is the PPAC board deciding if they want to put a community association voice as a permanent member, a permanent seat on the board, not the member. The member would change depending on who's on the community board at that particular time.
So the resolution that would need to get changed would be the one that established PPAC, because especially depending on what you guys decide to do, if you decide to add an 8th chair to allow that position, which means you need 5 for a quorum, that would not be my recommendation, but if we would have to change the resolution establishing PPAC to include a seat on PPAC for a member of the PPCA board. So that the resolution establishing P-PAC currently does not include that, so that would just be a revision of that one resolution, which is not the same as the one that's on your agenda today.
And I think you guys should have that discussion about if you, just as one person who had sat on this board before and has kind of gone through a lot of things, I think it would go a long way to add peace and harmony.
This will come up later on.
Yeah, we have 2 agenda items on it, so this is just public comment, this isn't meant for discussion at this point, so.
Ask Laura if she can group together.
Yeah, we have some things we need to move around on the agenda.
She's gonna work.
We have one other public comment from Mr. Bob Gepper, representing himself for item 7K.
Good afternoon. 7A?
K,
Hey, right, that's what I thought. I've been working for some time to fill the position of the permanent person over in Pelican. In line of doing that, I worked with Andrew Johnson beforehand and now with Daniel to get to the point where we selected the type of equipment, where their recommendation was the kind of equipment that we had for a kabuto and a pressure washer. The reason that I'm bringing it up here now is that I circumvented the procedure because of the 2-month delay we had where we didn't have a quorum. And it just get a little frustrated with things like when they don't get done. I knew the kind of equipment we wanted and I felt very confidently that you guys were going to approve it. So I made a motion at a board meeting, knowing that we wouldn't be able to take this up till late November or December, to go ahead and just purchase it. And I think that was wrong and I want to apologize for doing that. It just should have waited. I mean, when they scared me when they said it might be 6 months to get this thing, and I reacted. But I didn't want to take away or in any way impugn your guys' decision. I just didn't think it was going to be a big deal. And that was wrong. Thanks.
Thank you for apologizing.
No problem.
But you do have the right to do that as a.
Well, that's a whole different thing, but I don't want to ever do anything to undermine PPAC. I'm the biggest and strongest supporter for PPAC and their position. One little aside comment, since I still have the light. At one time,
I stopped you because I thought you were done.
well, that's, you never do that. Well, a comment about Carol's proposal, and I know you'll look at it later. At one time, in the early discussions of setting up landscaping and safety and security, an official offer was made to then PPAC or PPCA members to have a co-chair seat over here in order to get everybody together and all that. At that time, they did not want to do it for whatever reason, but it was offered at one time. So it's not totally out of reach or consideration. Thank you.
I don't have anyone else signed up for comment, and
Yeah,
there's
this is
no one
right.
in line.
So on item K, and that equipment has already been ordered,
Yes.
so there's nothing really for us to do as far as
Just
action item on this.
ratifying the decision. That
And
is,
what does that, what does ratification mean? That we accept the way it was done? Or because we don't have any choice as far
it's
as.
already been ordered, yeah.
Yes, so I would just suggest that we move on, so we got a full.
We can get
Point of
there.
order, we're not discussing that item.
Yeah, we're not there yet. So, okay. Minutes are next. I don't have anyone else for public comment.
Mr. Chairman,
Approval minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve items 5, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, as they are posted for the meeting minutes.
Second. Any discussion? Any vote?
Aye.
Unanimous. Item 6, financial report.
No, there it is. I'm not used to it being so big. These are through September. I do not have October financials yet. So this is through the end of last fiscal year. I took a note and shoot, I left my folder. You asked me last time about a transfer. Shoot, I left my folder laying on my desk. There was a transfer from reserves that someone had questioned why it wasn't on there. And I went back and I looked at the minutes and there was no direction to actually make the transfer. I'll get the specifics of it. I apologize. I left my PPAC folder on my desk with the notes in it. So, but there was I think it was you, no, you asked me, no, Alan, did you asked me?
Read it too.
There was no transfer request made to transfer funds to cover that. The discussion was there to have, you guys voted on doing the work, but there was no request, there was no motion to move the money, there was nothing anywhere in the minutes to move the money, so I didn't miss it, it never was requested. So that's why it's not on there.
All right,
I went back and verified, just to make sure I didn't miss it.
how do we make sure it gets on?
Well, it's last fiscal year's already done, so it's kind of a moot point for at this time.
Okay, but the project is still there, it's not listed on. The money is available, the project has been approved,
Right,
it's just not listed on your,
it's not listed on there because there was no transfer done.
okay.
Was that within the last few months where we didn't have?
It was prior to those months. There was actual minutes, so you had a meeting. I went back and looked. I even had the date, and again, I apologize. I left my P-PAC folder on my desk. I think it was like April or May. I want to say that was. But I went back and I read through everything, and there you approved the work, but no one asked for any type of transfer to be made, so there was no transfer made, which is why it's not on the list.
But the minutes state we approved it.
You approved the project. There was
That's-
nothing mentioned about a transfer anywhere at any time during the meeting, so that's why it's not in there.
So transferring at this point is, there's no value.
Correct.
Okay.
Keep losing my mouse. Maybe technical difficulties today. All right, hang on, I'm gonna pull this up a different way. I don't like this.
Any questions on are you keeping that up?
Yeah, I'm gonna get to it a different way. I don't like the way that's pulling off. This is a report that was requested to be included in your financials by Mr. Geppert. I think I tried to give you guys this information before and you said it was way too much. What this is all of the expenses that were paid for anything out of the 002 fund for all of last fiscal year. This was presented to the subcommittees as well, and they all said too much, don't want it. If you're gonna give it to us, just have it include the things that affect us. One of the groups wanted it monthly for a while because they're new, which safety and security had requested it monthly. And landscaping said quarterly is more than often enough. So this is something I can easily produce. It's a report. I literally click a button and it spits it out. If this is something that you would like to see on a monthly basis, I am happy to produce it. If you are not, I will not include it. As it was just a request of Mr. Geppert. He thought that you guys would find the information helpful, and so I've included it in the agenda packet. This is not something that I normally do.
I'd like to recommend that we see it here.
Okay. Would you like I'm assuming year to date is what you'd like. So it'd be really long like this by the end of the year.
Any other comments regarding his recommendation quarterly? Up here. We have somebody in the audience, Mr. Geppert.
Comment.
I wasn't trying to kill a tree. All I wanted to make sure was, I review this regularly. And because October had the entire year on it, I just wanted this to be available to everybody that you know that a dollar doesn't go out of our accounts without being categorized somewhere and open to your review.
And I'd also like to remind you that these are in the financials that are in the board book every month as well. This is part of the giant financial packet that gets presented to the board of directors each month. So it's in there too. If
So
you want to see it.
anybody
in
wanted
the
to see
meantime.
it, they can always.
Or you can,
Everybody's public record.
yeah, you can, it's part of the board book. And if you want it in between, just let me know. I can run it at any time.
But it was particularly helpful while I was on ponds. Because occasionally we get things charged to ponds that weren't ponds, that belong somewhere else. So the purpose for the 3 subcommittees, and that's really where it was aimed, is that they know they have the information available to them and they can see what's charged against their budget in any month or for the whole year. And it's just information. I know it was a lot more than anybody needed, but it's there. It's kind of interesting, it really is, but it's there. Thank you.
Any other comments regarding the motion?
Nobody else. Still look at it quarterly?
You don't really need a motion. You can
Okay.
just tell me. It's just direction. It's not a formal,
Okay.
it's informal. There's two
So
reimbursements
it is going to be,
quarterly, after the end of each quarter. So we just started, so I'll have, in January, you'll get them for October, November, December. As soon as we have.
To ask for, to have quarterly separate, not cumulative?
Yeah, I can do that, sure. You want each individual quarter? I mean, you can do, you've got 3 months to let me know, so if you change your mind. Well, each subcommittee is gonna get their own, because they've asked for them that way, but you'll get everything. Yeah, you'll get every, well, I'll go back to this, I'll show you how you'll be able to see, I know I keep shrinking it.
But it's like payroll taxes and things like that.
Yeah, you
We can exclude that, but, we get down to, I gotta get past all this stuff.
The actual subcommittees are this, that's what you asked me.
I have to get past this.
We have a group by subcommittee, yes.
Get past this. Don't speak for me, Bob. I can do them kind of by subcommittee. Like here's security, I'm trying to get down to the landscape. 5390,
We see what this.
here's ponds, anything that has this, you can't really see this number really good because it's small. The 53902 at the end, that's the sub account for ponds. So anything that ends in 53902 was something that they did, like GIS. All right, sorry, that's landscape. 53925 is.
She got it incorrect?
53902 is landscape. So these are all the things that were charged against monument and signs in the landscape subcommittee. So they're seeing that, their tree and sod replacement. And then like down here is the Superior Waterway, Solitude. These are all the pond maintenance. So that's all lumped together that way.
Laura, I have a question. Pardon, yeah, appearance. Question I have is, this information is not as
you better state your name.
Doug Zanter, and I'm speaking this for the Ponds Group or this Ponds Subcommittee. This data is not as useful to me and my group as the data that we used to get where it showed how much we had in contracts outstanding. If we don't get that.
Everybody's getting that as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
if we get
This
that,
is
then I
additional.
don't care. But
Yeah.
if this was at the expense of that,
No, this is additional.
Okay.
You're still getting that other
Okay.
report. Just like we had it here for PPAC too, I'll still do that summary page,
Okay.
but this is additional information.
okay.
This kind of tells you where those other numbers came from. It's like the detail behind that summary sheet. Okay, and then I was doing the workbooks. There were two expense reimbursements that we received from KW. This was the one for August. I paid out, they missed a bunch of things, and so I ended up paying them $34,000. They had only actually requested 16. But there was quite a few things that they did not include that had cleared the bank, and I had receipts for it, so I reimbursed them for everything that was actually paid in August. Same with September. There's, it kind of, you can see the difference here. They had requested the things early, so they had requested $30,000 worth of stuff, but there's almost 22.5 that hasn't cleared the bank yet, and the policy is that we don't pay until it clears the bank. So they have this stuff hanging out here yet, they haven't cleared yet in September, so I reimbursed $10,500 in September. For September. And that is all I have for financials. Anybody have any questions?
Any other comments?
So the vote is quarterly, and we'll just do a quarter at a time, and as you can change it anytime, it's literally pushing a button and running a
Normally a
report.
group by subcommittee.
I'll do my best.
Thank you.
That's gonna take a little extra work, but yeah. It kind of already
Can we be
is,
sure
so.
that's shown in the minutes? His request?
Well, it already is grouped by subcommittee because they're in there or lumped by that code. Yeah. Do you have any interest in seeing the payroll stuff, or do you just want to see the other? Okay, so just not the administrative costs, but everything else. Okay. That'll make it a little
Any other
smaller.
comments or questions regarding the financial report? All right, let's move on. Items for discussion.
I have a request from Mr. Zanter. He's got items D like David, E, Echo, F, Frank, as well as 8A. He does need to leave for another commitment, and he has asked if he could have his items moved up to the top of the agenda here. So it's Superior Water Management Contract, Pelican Preserve Downspout contract, and the pond repair past design authorization as well as his ponds committee update. He's asked if he could have
Delta,
both done.
Echo, and which one?
Frank,
And,
Foxtrot.
and eight,
Foxtrot, I like Frank. And then Alpha, under 8. Oh, the only one under 8.
All right, that's,
So it's
So,
up,
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we suspend the rules. And
You're allowed to rearrange them.
Items out of order.
yeah, you're allowed to rearrange them any way you'd like. This is the suggested
That's
order,
going
so,
by my Robert's rule.
yeah, that's not a law. It's a suggestion.
it's very serious.
there's a better thought.
Okay, 7B.
70, all right, you're up, Doug.
All right, they're okay with it?
Yep, you bet.
Okay, well, I'll try to go through quickly. 7D is Superior Water Management Contract. That's an extension of that's the existing vendor we have today. There's actually a sheet on that somewhere in the handout. But the Littoral's contract did not change year to year. They did not increase. And actually, the aeration contract went from 140,000 to 119,000. So we reduced the aeration contract. Most of that is due to Ed back here, Hedges, because of when we reduced the number of compressors, the power reduction. With less compressors, there's less parts for maintenance to replace, which is $11,000 of the reduction was because we don't need as many parts because we got less compressors. I asked both so Jay Neiman, a part of our group, is responsible for aeration, and Jim Latham and Lynn Appleton is responsible for the two together, split by, are responsible for littoral management. Both of them recommended that we extend the contract. So I'm here with a recommendation from our group that for you, they have a motion to extend the contract with Superior for one more year.
I make a motion that we extend the contract with Superior Water.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Vote. Aye. Vote is unanimous.
Okay. The second thing on the agenda for me was the downspout initiatives this year, 8 of the 8-year project. And I will be very, very, very happy that when it's done.
Thank you for all that was 8 years of hard work.
Yeah, it was 8 years. I was from day one to now. Yes. It's 185,000 to complete the project. The only option is to stop and not complete the project. We got pond 58 and 59 in Pistoia and Prado. I think they're actually both in Pistoia. And when they're completed, we will have completed it's in our budget at 185. So our recommendation is to proceed as opposed to putting the project I think that would be like being tackled on the 1-inch line in a football game. I'd like a motion to recommend that we complete the project year 8.
I'll make a motion that you complete the project year 8.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. It's unanimous.
Okay, the next thing is a Tetra Tech authorization for, it's really to validate our, I don't want to go through in detail, because of the length of your agenda on our strategy with coconut mesh. The group that was here last week, we didn't have a quorum, or last month, heard the differences in between coconut mesh and Armor Max and stuff like that. I'd like to come back when you have a shorter agenda to go through it. It's not urgent now. Right now.
I think we can still vote on it. We might have.
Well, there is nothing to vote on, right, except the task authorization to validate the design. That's all we're voting on today, is to have Tetra Tech validate the coconut mesh reclaim silt out of the pond to do that. I just need a recommendation for the task authorization to validate the design.
But there's no cost involved right now.
It's
That-
it's $20,000 for Tetra Pak, but there's no cost as far as lake bank repairs because we can't do anything until there's been a design.
I thought that when a task authorization was, they give us a quotation and we accept or we don't.
Well, that's where we're at right now.
No,
We're either gonna
They
accept or not.
have done this and the cost would be $20,000.
They haven't done anything yet, okay? This test authorization will validate the design that Pelican Reserve has used in the last 8 years to do coconut mesh restoration on our banks. We're a little more, we're having an engineer validate that what we've done for the last 8 years. That's what we're doing. We aren't, and by the way, they're also going to get us some bid specs. So we were able to go out and ask for bids from 3 different vendors. That's part of the test authorization also.
And they'll assist during the bidding process as
Right.
well. They'll evaluate the bids. and
But
the
right now,
recommendation.
We're voting on a task authorization.
Yes,
It's gonna
that's
be
it.
$20,000.
That's it.
Okay, so there is a cost and we're voting on that
Yes.
and then the district will take it over.
Yeah.
And get suitable bids.
They will work with the ponds group. We will work together as a team to get suitable bids. But we are not going to, the agreement we have right now is that we're not going through a formal bid process in the newspaper. We're getting 3 bids and
Quotes.
quotes. Yeah, use the right word. We're getting 3 quotes.
Okay, so I move that we authorize this task authorization at the cost of $20,000 to move this project forward.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. You got the money.
Got one more, Doug.
Doug, if you wanna wait, I can do this ponds update later if you don't, I mean.
I got time.
Okay,
I got to 3:15.
okay. Go for it.
I'm going to, somehow it didn't get on the agenda. Georgia said it was going to be added, but right now it's on L on the back, 9L on the back. The storm drainage cleaning. Bring up that, yeah, there's the chart. No one can read it. Can you blow it up so we can see it? That's not a storm water drain. That's just an example of a catch basin.
That's a bubbler.
That's a bubbler, but that's an example of the catch basin that I'm colorblind. Is that blue or purple arrow? Whatever that arrow is, that's what we're measuring when we last year we went out and did an inspection of every drain, storm drain in Pelican Preserve. Okay, and that number is there. Well, it doesn't matter. The total number, we inspected everyone and it came back with a report that said certain number of storm drains were 100% full, which means it's up to the top of that pipe. And if it goes beyond that, the debris goes into the pipe and then it's very expensive to clean the pipe. So you got to keep the stuff below the pipe so it doesn't, you don't have to go in and clean the pipe. We used to do a fourth every year where we cleaned the fourth of all the storm drains and so on, okay? We did the inspection and I think, what's the numbers? It's 60, let's just say 68%. It might be 67. I can't read. My eyes aren't that good.
65.
65% of the drains had 0 debris in them. 0 debris. And that's because of the good plan we had in the past. We have a proactive plan. So we went back and asked for a quote for just the 80 and 100. Okay? And it came back at $39,000 to do those 2. And I'll come back to that. We can actually do everything that has any debris in it for our budget for this year. Our budget is 90K. I believe we can do all 4 sections. And we're only excluding things that have no debris in them. And get it all done in 1 year versus 4. Now that might seem, it's nice to get stuff done early. But we were going to budget 90K a year for the next 4 years to do a fourth. You don't have to do that. So we have it by spending 27,000 to do the inspection. 90 times 3 is what's that? 270,000. We've saved $240,000 in our budget in the next 4 years by doing the inspection and only cleaning the ones that have no debris. Yes.
Are you planning?
No, but I might look at every other year. We're going to have to do the interconnect pipes that we don't have. That's something in the future. So we're going to need some of that money for ponds pipes, but it will not be from a storm drain standpoint. So I think it's a good plan. I think it's a good plan. You know, don't know, it'd be nice, I guess I recommend that we proceed with a plan to get all of it done versus just 80% and greater, and let's just get it, knock it out this year and spend the budget of, I think the budget would be 80K. I should say our budget is 80K. I think we could get it done, or 90, we could get it done for 80. So if someone wants to recommend that we clean all the storm drains that have any debris in it, I'd like a motion if you,
There's no disadvantage to that.
Is this the item on the back, C?
yes. But if you look in George's notes, the agenda item got to George, that's when I was in Cabo. And it got in there on the 3rd, and she said it was going to be added, so,
It's right here.
I'm not sure why we would have to make the recommendation. You're in charge of the bond group and you've got all.
but there's a lot of this stuff that we have the budget for already, but I still come forward and talk to you.
Doug,
I don't think it has to go to CDD.
Doug, can I make one suggestion?
Yes.
Prior to the PPAC approving, just that I personally don't like lump sum contracts. So if we could request extreme divers just to change that lump sum to a not to exceed, that would be my preference.
Okay. I mean, they're reworking the contract right now to include all the things. And just so you know, Chelsea, I've already talked to them that we are behind Gateway in getting their project with the storm sewer or storm drains done. And we're not going to work on this because this is routine, or this is preventative maintenance. And so if it's a couple months later, it's a couple months later. So we're waiting for your project to get done before we complete this. We got the same vendor.
I appreciate that, Doug. Just so the board's aware, we've got extreme divers on the Gateway side doing almost $1 million contract for catch basin 4 cleaning. And they've got a lot on their plate right now. I hate to keep throwing more on their plate if they're already behind on the Gateway project. So Doug's said he talked to the contractor and that they're willing to work with us and know that the Gateway stuff needs.
I think they
catch up.
realize they have a big enough challenge satisfying you, Chelsea, than working on a second project at the same time.
Thanks, Doug.
Last thing is just the fountains. We're talking about the big fountains that are like behind the Brokey Center, the ones when you come into what's it, Venton? You know, huh? No, the road there, Veneto. On a Veneto, there's 2 big fountains and there's one behind Brokey Center. It's been determined that those are CDD asset, which means I will manage these going forward. There was no maintenance contract ever. And we're looking at Jen, since she had that just a little while ago. Lewis has got a bid. We're talking about the maintenance, yearly maintenance on those 3 fountains. We got a bid right now for $1,500 for that. So I just let you know, I was almost like, are you sure? You know, but the only thing, what?
125 per fountain per quarter.
Yeah, the only thing though, that caveat is there's no parts in there. So if something breaks, you're going to get a special, a part request for that. For, let's just say something breaks within the fountain, that's not in the maintenance contract. That's separate.
Does that include alligator control?
Yes. We'll build a bridge around that.
I'm just concerned about
And
this.
who's gonna inspect the bridge?
Not the alligator.
The alligators.
Yeah. So I don't know if I really need anything. I just wanted you to know about it. It's not urgent. We're still trying to get 2 more bids because we only have 1.
And the one that you got is from the company who's currently doing them.
I hope the other bids come in higher. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can put that on tape, but it's the same
Well,
one.
it's the lowest price, most responsible. So even if the other ones are higher, you can,
It's Superior Management that gave us a contract, so they do half of our littoral maintenance and all our aeration maintenance already. So we'd have to deal with one less vendor than if we gave it to someone else.
but we'll see where they come
You
in.
need a motion to approve the storm drain cleaning? No, it's a budget.
No.
Okay.
Chelsea's or somebody.
Well, do you want to contact them to get that change from?
Yeah,
lump sum?
I'll come back here. I'm not as urgent about that because it's probably going to be, over a month or, it'll probably be a couple months before your project is done.
But that's all right, at least it's on their radar, that way they can
Right.
just move on.
Right.
So we'll just get that, we need to get that changed.
As long as we have meetings every month, then that, I mean, some of these agenda items, this is the third time I've showed up to present. All right. That's all.
You don't need any motion from us.
I think, well, if we can make the motion now and we can do the purchase order and everything, that way it's queued up for them to
Okay,
do
the
the work.
motion would be that we, not to exceed, we proceed with the storm drains, cleaning, with a not to exceed 80K.
Make a motion to approve the storm drain cleaning not to exceed $80,000.
I'll second that.
Right.
All in favor?
Is it 80,000?
Yeah, I think it'll be 80. It's 39. It'll be less than 80,000.
My recommendation.
That's our budget. 90 is our budget.
My recommendation would be that we move forward with the estimate that you have, and then if you have additional work, we can come back with that. 'Cause we don't have
We're not
anything.
gonna proceed with that. We're gonna clean, we already talked about, we were going to clean them all that are 25 or
That
greater.
you should come back with another bid to do everything.
Well, I don't have a bid for that yet.
Yeah, but
That's why I said we didn't.
I thought you were asking for permission to do this, so
I'm not gonna do that.
Okay, but you should come back once you've got the whole thing.
Okay, I'm okay.
There was a motion, seconded, passed.
It would pass.
But I need something to substantiate the 80,000. We don't have anything to do that.
I'll come back to you. Don't worry about it. I'll come back.
So we have to withdraw the motion?
I thought that we were talking about the 39,000, so I misunderstood. We don't have anything for 80,000. We only have one for 39,000.
And that's not.
And what is the limit that he could come to you and bypass us? What authorization are you able to give?
I can, if it's a line in the budget that's been approved for that specific thing, like you have a line, you
Yes.
have something on there, I can
What is the
approve up,
number?
I can approve up to the budget limit. If it's something that,
Could you proceed with that in the future? I mean.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm
mean,
just
what-
told what to come here,
Yep.
even though I got funding
we
for it
will
and stuff,
bring it to you to say, look, we're spending your budget on.
but you might not have to
So,
vote on it.
Information.
The only time that would
But
be an exception would be if we need to
I'm
transfer.
gonna
funds.
sit down so you can get back on the meeting. We do have golf cart parking now that was done. If some of you have seen it for the boardwalk, it's been completed. And it's so golf carts can park in the grass. It's got something embedded in the grass. So you can put the cart and it actually could drive a car on it. It's that type of material. But the grass grows up right between it and you wouldn't even know it was there. Right?
And I think there's been a request by some, based on some of the public comment to rearrange the remaining items under number 7. I believe because of discussion on items L and M, that affects item A.
So I make a motion that we discuss items Alpha, Lima, and Motel together and vote on them separately.
I heard you tell John, if I identify items that you've already proved and you had it planned, that's it.
I've got too many notes here, I can't find it. Let's first, our PPAC new member selection. We voted on him,
You didn't vote on him.
and we vote on
You-
him.
Yes.
You discussed them the last time. So my question for you would be, do items L and M affect item A?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I think based on the comment that was brought in, based on the opinion of the people on the committee here, voting on A would be premature before discussing L and M.
So I think we should discuss.
It's your,
Yeah.
Let me ask you why.
No, it would not.
I'm just,
He can't officially vote anyway
I understand that.
until it gets approved by the CBD. Correct?
He's not officially on PPAC, well, until the board blesses it, correct?
Correct. So I mean. Whatever way you want, but I don't see any issue with it.
The reason that is, the only reason that I say that is because of what Carol mentioned about that we have an opening. PPCA has requested to be on PPAC and you currently have an opening. Yes, I know there was discussion the last 2 months about, I'm not saying that you can't vote that in. I'm just saying based on the public comment that you received about the current opening and the wish of PPCA to have a seat on it. So you basically have someone from PPCA board who wants to be on PPAC, and you have Ed who wants to be on PPAC. You technically have two candidates. So that is something that if you,
No,
You do not.
we do not have.
we just said how you want to fill it. We've requested to have a seat.
There was
So-
no other candidate that is presented from the PPCA.
That is correct.
They requested to have a board member, not a specific person, so that would be that would take the current opening on the board. So that is something that you need to discuss. Do you want to fill the current position on the board with the candidate who applied at Hedges, or do you want to fill the current position on the board with the person from PPCA? That needs to be discussed.
There was a motion on the floor already.
Right.
To discuss these three items together. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right.
Okay, so I'd like to just kick it off by saying I so wholeheartedly support Ed in joining our group. He has been just a blessing to the Ponds group, to a lot of other areas too. He's engaged, he's articulate, and I think he'd be invaluable on our group.
I have to agree with that also.
Peggy, I don't think your mic's on.
Well,
Should be up.
I would
No, the button.
agree with that.
What they're saying, Ed has done a lot of work on safety and security relative to streetlights and Passerella project. And I think would be a good addition to this board. The whole idea of now having somebody from PPCA on this board has merit in my mind. However, once again, they would put their will on us in terms of who they would select to be on this board. And I would be in favor of anyone on the current board with the exception of one individual. So if a vote came up, I would want to know who I'm voting for. Just saying.
I'd like to hear from Nancy. She's a PPCA, board member, and so I'd like to hear where they're coming from.
Nancy Straw, PPCA board. This is having Ed Hedges on PPAC, I think is a great idea. I'm just going to start there. The idea of the PPCA having a board representative on PPAC is something that's been discussed at length with Laura and Chelsea and John and Faye and Jennifer and I when we've had our negotiation sessions. So item L on there, the service provider agreement is when we've had those conversations, when we've been discussing that agreement. At one time we had it in writing, it's come back out now, but it's still our intent that that would be a good idea. So the resolution to do that, the PPCA board has not determined who that candidate would be. And Faye's out of town. I can't even ask her. She's out of country, actually. So I can't ask her right now anyway who she would name. But
So would it be the same person every time?
yes, it would be one individual.
One individual?
Yes, and as
No.
Carol pointed out, it
Not
would
getting a
not a revolving door of whoever can show.
one of five.
As long as they
Correct.
are on the board, they would be the person on PPAC.
Yeah, because you don't allow surrogates anyway. So no, I don't think that would be
You're
allowable.
not proposing to raise the board to 8, are you?
That would be something, I think PPAC needs to have that discussion and decide. It raises your quorum to 5, as Carol mentioned.
Quorum to
And
5.
that's, you've had issues with quorum. So,
We've had issues with quorum, we
Right.
didn't have quorum the last 2 times,
right,
with 4.
yeah. So I would leave it up to PPAC. The community association is interested in having a board representative on PPAC. As I said, I can't say who that would be, because that will be a decision that we'll make. I'm sure we'll discuss it at our upcoming board workshop, probably.
Let that person run for the board when there's an opening and give that reasoning to everybody for that vote. I mean, it's just.
That
be
would be
appointed.
different.
I,
I think
they
that
would just
different.
be running as a resident then. I think that the intent of this, and like Nancy stated
When
it,
anybody runs as a resident, they give a resume, and that is part of a resume.
but I think the intent
And
of
that
this
could be
was,
their advantage for getting put on or not. I'm just saying it,
I-
to just be appointed versus,
the intent of this was to have a seat on PPAC, that would be for someone from the PPCA board. It might not always be the person would have to be on the board. If they left the board, then that position would change. It's not that they would be like, you guys are, there would always be a spot on PPAC for someone from PPCA. Where you come and go and your position's open and you're voted into your roles that way. There would basically be 6 general resident positions if you choose to keep it at 7, and 1 for somebody from the PPCA board. So there would be 6 residents and a PPCA board member to make up your 7. So that's what's different versus just putting their name in for an open spot. That's the difference.
So it seems to me that items Lima and Motel need to be revised to state that they can fill a vacancy to bring the board to 7. Because otherwise it suggests that Lima and Mike would raise the board membership to 8, which I oppose.
Oh, no, that would be up to you guys. That's part of what we need to talk about that's why we're having this discussion. So you can you can have the discussion to vote Ed into your current position, which would bring you up to 7, or to not put Ed in that position and use that opening to appoint someone from the PPCA board, or you can wait until you have another vacancy, and when that next vacancy opens up, that could be when you appoint the person from the board. So you have options. It's not like you have to. So
That makes sense.
Let us talk about this a bit. So, in my mind, this service provider agreement that was put on here today is unresolved. It's not something that is determined.
This is an update.
And we're really close. We have 2 items right now that are still resolved.
It's not finished.
The attorneys are.
And the resolution here that has been brought forward is also premature. The idea that we have 7, that we get a chance to vote on the opening position now, and in the future, perhaps that 7th would include a PPCA member, where after we've had time to discuss this and talk about it, seems the appropriate way for us to proceed in my mind.
I agree.
So if that is the case, I would move that we consider the Ed's application to the board and we vote on it at this time.
I'll second that as a motion. Any other discussion?
No, I agree. I think that makes most sense, since we don't know who the board member from the community association would be anyways.
That's correct.
And since we have a member that's willing to be part of the.
And we should have.
We should do it now.
All right, there's been a motion. It's been seconded. All
Favor?
in favor?
Aye.
Any negative?
Aye.
You don't want to vote Ed?
No, we
I'm
do.
sorry, yeah,
Okay. So it is 604 in favor of adding Ed Hedges. I wrote down Ed Hedges is the new member of TPAC.
discombobulated with the recommend.
Yeah, we are.
So it's 6-0. Everyone is in favor of Ed. Okay, I'll make sure that gets to the board next week then.
Thank you. Thank you. That's
I'd like
great.
to make a motion to indefinitely postpone items Lima and Mike.
We don't want to definitely postpone item Lima because that's going to be coming back before you. That's our service provider agreement. So
That's comfortable.
it's meant to be an informational item on here. There's no action needed by you at this point. We do need to come to some kind of an agreement or completely dissolve it between the district and PPCA.
Unacceptable, because right now it's talking about adding a person to the.
No, that's.
Yeah.
It's not a service, so we removed it from the service provider agreement.
Okay, so
The-
that means we should indefinitely postpone item Mike.
Well, I don't know about indefinitely, but I believe.
Well, they can bring it back. But right now, we're gonna kill it.
Well, table would be a nice.
Well,
Can I suggest that you,
You can, the recommendation would be to table it until you have an opening on PPAC.
What? Laura,
Or you choose to add a
Laura,
member, right?
Laura,
Yeah, I can hear.
why don't they just continue with the next item that is in front of them? And when they get to that item, they can either choose to table it or whatever. So why don't they move to 7B?
But they made a motion to discuss A, L, and M all together.
That's correct.
That's why.
Can I discuss just a few things without everybody kind of going different directions on this thing? The overall objective if I heard Carol correctly, is that they want better communication because of all the personality conflicts in the past. That's what it was, personality conflicts. It wasn't, if I've got it correct. And so that's the overall objective. And did this resolve, or did it come out of the fact that they were meeting between the PPCA and the district and the O&M agreement and all that sort of stuff? And this was one of the options that they came up with, is that?
Yes, we've discussed it at length in those meetings.
All right, and so it's for better communication is the main reason why this is wanting to be done.
And for clarity with what the PPCA wants.
And to keep us engaged. I
Yeah.
mean, without a seat on PPAC, it's pretty easy to just step back and,
Was,
not be involved.
was there any other options that were a possibility besides actually putting a member on the PPC or PPAC? Or was that the only option you came up with?
Well, I mean, we've talked about various levels of involvement with the subcommittees. And as it is, I've been going to those meetings as a public member because I don't want to be on the committee because then I'm subject to sunshine. So it's been better not to be on the subcommittees. That's one way to stay involved, but it's good to stay informed. Jennifer goes to as many of those as she can as well. And we have pretty good communication between us, between KW and the board right now. We did talk about the possibility of having a seat at the table that was non-voting. We rejected that some time ago because, again, it's easy to be a little bit less engaged if you're not actively involved with PPAC. So do you remember other?
Well, we talked about you being on and you said, no, we're not sure if we want to do it. And then we're like, well, yes, we'd like to do it. And then we like, no, non-voting or voting. So we had a lot of discussion around it. So-
No,
Yeah, I can say that I know for a fact that Nancy has been at like every single subcommittee meeting. So I've seen her there because I've been there too. So pretty
Jen.
much, or Jen
Or
between
Jennifer.
them.
Nancy, if I could express the potential reticence on our part, is that we're all subject to sunshine laws, and we're not even supposed to talk to each other in between. Now, you and the PPCA are not confined to those kinds of results. So the concern, in my mind, there's an opportunity then for that person from the CPCA who's sitting on this board gets to talk to the district and anybody they want to all month long, and then come to us after we've had no discussion and no information on this. So I think there's merit to having somebody on it,
Yeah.
but it's not without some drawbacks in my mind. And I think these kinds of things need to be talked out and some understanding, or otherwise, your will is just put onto this board and we just accept it.
I agree. And it was never our intent that you even had to act on this today, because this is something that's been developing over several months. And I understand your reticence and totally concur. I mean, even going from 7 to 8, good decision to not increase your quorum to 5. I mean, I fully support you in that. So
these items are not final. And so my motion is indefinitely postpone item Lima and Mike.
I would request that you do not indefinitely postpone item Lima because we are gonna be bringing that back. It's a work in progress.
and right now we don't
Bring it back,
actually.
but
Well,
for today,
hey,
I
hey.
move that we indefinitely postpone according to my Robert's rules.
We don't follow that. That's a guideline. They're not set in stone, so.
Hold on, there's a motion on the floor.
It's about second.
There's no second. Was there a second to postpone it? I didn't hear it.
I thought I seconded.
I didn't hear.
I didn't hear a second. I heard the motion, but I didn't hear a second.
I'll
Well-
second it.
Okay, can you restate the motion, please?
The motion is to indefinitely postpone items 7 Lima and 7 Mike. They're not finalized yet, and we're not prepared to act on them today, so they can bring them back at another meeting.
I'll second it as you mentioned it.
Any further discussion?
I don't.
I mean, I have some updates on item
Yeah,
seven
well, yeah,
Lima,
that's what I
so
think
if
Lori
we're,
was trying to say that she didn't want to table.
there's
stuff
no
because
vote
there's
that needs
updates.
to happen on
She just
either
wanted
of
to
them
give us
today.
updates on what the service agreement,
Correct.
where they're at
But it-
with it.
If you want to take, that's fine.
You don't want to hear, so do we want to hear the updates or? do
So
we
we
not?
can have discussion on that now.
Can we move along?
Yes,
Yeah, there's no, they're on there for information.
We need to get to our action item.
okay.
There's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If we could take a vote,
Bob has a question.
Bob Geppert, I just wanted to throw something out. Alan, you said before that the issues that created the personality conflicts, there were substantive issues that were addressed, that we agreed to disagree with the community association. And this had to come into the form of setting up a safety and security and setting up landscape. So it was more than personality. I agree with you. There were personality issues, but it was driven by the fact that we were changing something. The other big change that we've had in the last couple of years is that for 2 years, over 2 years, no one from PPCA ever came to these meetings or they occasionally came to the big board meeting, but I never remember ever having a community association member here. So we've improved an awful lot of that. So you just got to keep that in the background. Where we were then and where we are now is a world. We are so much better in our cooperation with the new board and the way that they're coming to the meetings. So I just wanted to throw that out. It was more than just personality.
Well, that's what I struggle with, because I do think we've got good
We
communication
do.
with the PPCA. And I don't know of anybody on this committee that's anti
No,
that way, but I also think that the more communication we can have, the better relationship we can have, it's good for everybody.
absolutely. Totally agree with that.
You know,
But it's changed dramatically.
One of them, but I think I'm with the rest of the committee. I can't speak for them, but I don't want to wait with putting Ed on first and then figure it out later.
I agree with that also. But that, I wanted to give the background, not comment on that.
So Laura, for further discussion, could you give us an update on item Lima?
Sure, I can tell you that what you have in your packet is substantially complete. There was a change that was made, let me pull it up here. I don't remember exactly where it is, and I think it's towards that. It's back. Looking for the one with the dollar amount.
I think it's on
Right there.
Exhibit A.
Is it exhibit A?
Thanks.
Long.
There it's B. You just went by it.
Okay.
It's on B.
Nope,
No.
not what I'm looking for.
Oh,
No, it's in this. Anyway, I don't remember which page it's on in here. I know I read it. I'll find it while I'm talking. There was something in this current agreement that basically gave PPCA the right to veto a decision that would have been made by the committees or PPAC for any expense that was over,
it was 20,000.
yeah.
So Laura, I have an update.
Attachment
on this.
A12.
And I have an update on that.
And that's been removed in our version anyway, so the veto power was taken out. It was reworded. A12, you said?
Attachment A12.
The very last page, the last one.
Wow, here, yes. This was reworded. I know there was emails between.
So this is Nancy Straw. Actually, our attorneys have been communicating about this, and I think the last communication I saw went from our attorney to Tony. And it was in regard to this number 12. And then they also changed some wording in the indemnification paragraph. That wasn't a big deal, but they changed it. And they're trying to find a compromise on this, so it wouldn't be that we have any veto power, because we don't, but that we would still be assured of some input
see, now,
on large swings.
you're able to communicate regarding that. We cannot. I mean,
I understand.
that creates an issue.
Can you explain that a little more, John? I'm not sure I'm
Well-
following.
Your board can constantly discuss things like that, or discuss it with Tony. None of us here are able to do that.
Our board hasn't discussed it with Tony. Our attorney has discussed it.
The attorney said
Your
it's
attorney
speaking.
then reports that you already knew about it,
Right, because I've
and
been
I'm
in the
sure other
email, loop,
people on your board knew about it.
probably. Just our board president.
Right, I'd like to, move the motion.
We take a vote on the motion. It has been made and seconded.
Aye.
I,
Right.
no,
No,
For two.
Yes.
So they've been tabled indefinitely. All right.
All right, I got too many arrows here. Where are we?
Seven Bravo.
These should be all things that you guys discussed at your last meeting. We just need to vote.
Yeah,
yes.
Have they been approved?
yeah.
Yeah, they voted. Oh yeah, it passed 6-0.
It's not.
Yeah, no, 6-0 passed. Yeah,
It was unanimous.
yeah,
That is in.
yeah, that's it. I'll take it to the board next week.
You can even have a seat up.
You're really, here,
And,
too late to back up.
and if you'd like to join, you do have a spare seat.
You can't do that yet. It's not official.
Oh, dear.
Not till
Yeah, sure, yeah.
next week.
Okay.
Order, can we move to seven Bravo?
Yeah.
We're running out of time.
I'm ready. So 7B was on your agenda last month. You had quite lengthy discussion about 7B. Are there any further questions about this?
Really have a choice.
There we go.
No, because you agreed to that before you put the road in, so
Correct.
it's just finalized, but it still needs to come for phone, yeah.
Make a motion to approve item seven Bravo.
I'll second that.
I,
Aye.
Alright. Item 7C, Passarella has been bugging me weekly looking for this. This is the $50,000 you spend every year in your budget. It's already allocated. Just need your permission because it's over my spending limit. So if you're good with it, I'll make it
You
happen.
approve the Pascarella contract for fiscal year 2024 as noted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
Alright, we already did D, E, and F. We're up to G.
Okay, Cypress Grove, item G.
This was discussed last month as well.
It's and it had been approved before. The recommendation was to accept the bids
From
from McShay Contracting
and Lycan.
and Lincoln Signs.
So unless you changed your mind,
So I move that we accept the bids that were by McShay and Lycans, that were gotten by the district, to move forward with this project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's approved unanimously.
alright, the Kubota. This Kubota is a vehicle for the person that we're gonna have doing the maintenance work over in Pelican Preserve. It will stay in Pelican Preserve. We're currently working with the golf course. Apparently there was an area in one of their storage buildings that they used to let the maintenance person keep a vehicle over there along with some tools and equipment and stuff like that. So this would be yours. You are purchasing it. It will stay in Pelican Preserve. The thing is, it's not in your budget, so you would need to transfer $20,000 from unassigned reserves to pay for it.
Make a motion to transfer $20,000 from the service.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
Is there any ongoing cost to store this?
There's no, we don't need to pay anything. They're giving, the space was already used by us. By So-
course, and
It's gonna be put in the golf course pump storage building.
And has anything been promised to the golf course for this?
No.
consideration?
We can just use it, so.
Jim Zorba said no problem.
Yep, we were using it previously, so we're just gonna use it.
Do we have any insurance coverage or anything that we need to get on?
The vehicle will be covered under, to check that, we probably will put it under our insurance, but I'll check on that.
Should be taken notice, though, that one of the members on this committee retired from John Deere and they're buying a Kubota.
Was the best. This has a really nice, this one has a nice dump truck, you know, and everything too. They were quite a bit more expensive. We're trying to be respectful of your funds, so. We were able to piggyback onto one of the other contracts for this, was either the state or the county, to get a good price on this.
And Laura, just to clarify, did we ever determine if we are going to be sharing the pressure washer?
Nope, it's solely yours. Yep, it's staying in Pelican.
That's item K.
Sorry, I jumped it.
So you had a motion and a second, there was no vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
All right. And Marty's favorite topic, bridges.
So I'd make a motion to accept the bridge inspection proposal as proposed. This will give us a baseline to start our bridge inspection schedule that's required by the Florida Department of Transportation.
And you have more than enough in the budget. There's 45,000, you're spending 27.
I did appreciate having the bridge inspection location document you think.
Is it all the bridges?
No, all the ones that we own, all the ones that are district owned, yes. So yes, but no.
Yes.
The bridge that goes from the Brokey Center over to, that is. It's not.
It's not a district
It's
asset.
not a district asset.
Okay.
So we have conservation on the train.
And then, it also has a light that needs to be repaired, wireless hanging from below it.
So there's motion by Marty.
I'll second it.
You seconded, I missed it.
We have any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Right, do you want to skip to K and go back to J, just since you're on a roll approving things,
Yep, you bet.
even though it's already done?
Yep.
So more of an FYI kind of thing.
Well, I make a motion that we reinforce the purchase that we made of the Ventrac Kubota swirly pressure washers.
I need you to authorize the transfer from the unassigned reserves as well, because there was nothing budgeted for
I'd like
that.
to make a motion to move the money from unassigned reserves to cover the cost of both is it both the tractor and the?
It's the whole deal, the tractor, the trailer, the swirly thing, the whole deal, everything. That's what it's called. It's a swirly. So
This
it makes me giggle every time I read
I
it.
know. So I'll make a motion to move the money from unassigned reserves to cover the cost for this.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. You abstain.
You can't abstain unless you have a personal conflict. You have to vote.
What do you mean personal conflict?
It doesn't, you can't abstain.
So what exactly are we're voting on the transfer of funds?
Yeah,
Correct.
It's already been purchased.
yes.
We're under contract for it. It's just how are we gonna pay for it?
That's right.
We already have an apology on this, so.
I don't know why this is not here, though.
Yeah, if we have to put
It was in your previous two agendas and it just carried forward.
No.
Okay.
So it's not unanimous. It is 5-1.
Yep. And then I think all we have left is J.
Joliet.
and Benito would speak.
Yeah, well, I meant in under 7,
Okay.
under 7,
Okay.
because we took care of everything else already.
Okay.
We jumped around a lot. I just want to make sure we hit everything.
So make a motion to accept the security contract scope.
Can we talk about?
Yeah.
Yep. This is the current scope. This is the current agreement that went into effect in December. And it goes December of 22 and it goes through September 30th of 2024. This was more meant as a starting point because we are gonna be putting this out to bid in the spring. Probably March-ish, so that we have a good chance to get everything out there. So this was put in here for reference for you guys to see what the current scope is that we have with Wiser. So it's more topic of discussion. There's no vote that needs to happen. This is in place until the end of September. Just to get your creative juices flowing when it comes time to put the scope together. This will also go to safety and security because that is their main, one of their responsibilities is to oversee.
No action, I'll withdraw my motion.
Well, I guess I'm really wanting us to look at what we do for the gatehouse with security. It's, to me, we grossly overspend and we get very little value.
I can give you a little bit of information on that. I had a meeting this morning with Danny Clemens from Safety and Security. And Tim was here from Wiser and Daniel and myself met with them. We did an audit of the invoices that were received back to September 30th, the week of September 30th, 2022. And we were overbilled about $19,000 in hourly wages compared to what they were supposed to bill us according to the contract. So they are going to be issuing us a credit. We're withholding payment at this point because the credit is much higher than what their normal weekly bills are. We've made some requests of them to include the timesheets as well. They give us like the hours, but they don't break them down. So we've requested to see the actual timesheets with the invoices when they come over going forward. As well as the gas receipts for the fuel that we're being charged for the rover.
Aren't they charging us for the rover more hours than they were already?
And it's because there's multiple people supposedly, so we'll get. The last week that I had, there were 4 pages, there were 2 for the guardhouse and 2 for the rover for the week, and it breaks down who worked, what time they worked, what they were doing, so we'll have all that to substantiate it. But Tim said that he went back for the bill that I haven't seen yet, we should be getting it any day now, for last week, and he adjusted the hours down to make sure that we did not get billed for more than the hours that were in the contract. So there have been occasions on one line where we actually got invoiced less than we should have, but that was very rare. It was generally more, and it was generally on the supervisor side. They're capped at 40 hours for a supervisor, and the last time card I saw, there were 67 hours. So it's not like it's just 1 or 2 hours, it's many hours. We also,
Do we have anything in the contract? Or to having an independent auditor? Look at books.
I don't know why that would be appropriate, but to look at their books.
Is it overcharged?
Well, I went back and audited the invoices, so. That's where I came up with the $19,000. So that was done, and that's why we requested the timesheets going forward, so there's some substantiation for the amounts that they're billing us. I learned that they have GPS in the rover, so we can tell where they're actually going when they're driving around. And when their employees clock in and out, the time system that they use does have geofence on it, which they cannot clock in or out if they're outside, if they're not within the geofence, which is Pelican Preserve. And the rover, if it leaves, I didn't ask what the limit was, but there's a geofence for the rover as well. If the rover leaves that geofence, there's an alert that gets sent to Tim, so he knows that they're outside of like a certain distance outside of whatever that geofence is. There, I mean, like to go to the gas station, obviously we'll be outside, but if they exceed a certain distance, he gets an alert that they're well outside of where they should be with the car, but they'd be up.
I mean, and I think those are all positive things, but my personal sense of this is the rover has very little value. We pay for cars, we pay for their time, and the value that we get for it, I think, is minuscule.
It's all part of the current contract, so that'll be something to look at. Yep.
Want to start?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And then again, that's why this is in here to kind of get you thinking about what you'd like to do. And it said safety and security will be presented with the same documents so that they can start thinking about it as well. Because the intent is for them to draft it and then to bring it to you to look at.
Do we have a breakdown of what our costs are if we
I think
just have a rolling car, and if we didn't?
It should be in, I think the pricing is in, it should be in.
The labor for the drivers also.
vehicles.
But aren't those people that are driving it, aren't they already working at the gate?
No.
No, they're
No,
not.
specific road.
Oh,
Mark Thompson, the supervisor is the one that does the,
Here we go.
This is the current one, so.
So, months ago, Laura, you told us at this meeting that the district would like to get away from the security contract at all.
No, I didn't say that. You put words in my mouth, but no,
No, you did. You told us, you talked about it. You don't want to have the security contract. You're fine with taking care of the gatehouse as a piece of infrastructure. And then you'd rather see the PPCA, and or this indicates the kind of a move to get this over to PPCA. And that may be the right thing to do. But I think the bigger question is, we need to find out who's going to be in control of this. Because if the PPCA is going to take this over or be forced to take this over, then we need to have an understanding that any and all dollars expended on this, which are currently $400,000, need to be given to PPCA. So that somehow we don't end up paying, leaving 50,000 or 100,000 on the table that we have to make up as residents.
what would happen is if there is a change made and the district no longer has the contract with your security company, that would happen at the end of the fiscal year. It's not like we're just gonna go, nope, we're not gonna pay it anymore. We wouldn't just walk away from it. That's part of these conversations. So obviously, if there was no security contract, that would not show in your budget on the district side and would need to be absorbed, whatever that cost is for whoever is gonna be paying for it. I'm not offering my opinion either way. I mean, it's your community, it's your budget. You guys are working on setting the scope for this, and that's why this is in here. I mean, for us, it doesn't benefit the district in any way, which is part of where I'm thinking my comment came from. We get nothing out of this contract. Our roads are public. We can't stop anybody from driving on them. This contract truly benefits the community, which is part of why we had talked about just having PPCA take it over. But again, you're the Pelican residents, your budget, you're gonna work on the scope. I'm not gonna tell you how to do it. So
I think
we're sitting, the way it is right now, we're in place till September 30th. We've got 10 months to sort it out.
And then we'll go to safety and security first.
Yes.
Their first date.
Yes, they will be the ones drafting this first scope, and then it'll come to you
One
guys.
of the things that we'd like to know about is what mechanism it would happen so that each resident isn't charged ad valorem taxes for that security.
It won't be on your budget line.
PCA takes that up and charges us in for HOA.
It
I
won't.
don't understand that.
Okay, so what'll happen is this is right now, this is a line item in your budget. If the contract is no longer held by the district, that line item goes away, which means those dollars go away because it won't be allocated to that security contract. I cannot promise that your overall budget will go down by that amount because you may choose to take those dollars and reallocate them to something else. I can tell you that if the contract is no longer being held by the district, there will not be a line in your budget for the security contract.
So then that amount of dollars would be reduced from our ad valorem taxes for the.
That's right. So it's a trick question. It would not be on that
It's
line
not a
item.
trick question, it's a simple question.
It depends. If you decide to take those dollars and reallocate them, then yes, it still will be included in your non-ad valorem taxes. It just will not be included as an expense for a security contract.
If everything else is static.
Then it won't go down that much. But if you choose to take those dollars and reallocate them to something else, then it will not go down. But if you choose to not reallocate the dollars to something else, then it will go down. But we will not charge you non-ad valorem taxes for a security contract if there is no contract being overseen by the district.
But the trick thing is, because I'm also on the finance committee for the PPCA. And we have got such a skinny budget for next year, and then you try to put another $400,000 on it. The people are not going to understand it. They're not going to understand that they're gonna, their district bill or the gateway bill is less, or tax bill is less. And they're having to pay it over here. They just don't understand it. And so somehow or other it's,
Well,
I
it's
think so.
open to not having a security.
well, I don't know, but actually, I think it'd be a benefit for the PPCA to have security versus leaving it here. That's my own personal feeling.
And I'm of the opinion as well. my concern is, we got $400,000, that's $100 per household. Yeah. And, you know, it's not an insignificant increase over what we paid in taxes this year. And we're not getting any kind of commitment here. I mean, you know, somebody should be able to tell us that.
All I can tell you is that you will not be charged non-ad valorem taxes for your contract if you don't have it. What you choose to do with that $400,000 is up to you guys. If you choose to take completely remove it from the budget, it will go down. If you choose to reallocate it, it will not go down. That is your decision.
So we can reallocate it to PPCA?
No, you can't reallocate it to PPCA.
Okay, well, so in other words, there's no commitment on the part of the district to give us anything back of $400,000.
Yes, there is. That's what I just explained to you. If that line will be removed from your
That line will
budget.
Be removed from the budget.
What you choose to do with that $400,000 is up to
We
you.
Charged it in our
Correct.
If
CDP.
we want to add something else for 400,000, we could do that.
Right, it would just be reallocated. There will not be a line in your budget for the contract on your non-ad valorem taxes, should you choose to have PPCA take it over. What you do with the money that was previously allocated there is up to you.
All right, we have two people there that have comments. Anybody on our board have any additional comments before I go?
I've done.
After we hear from them, we might have, but to go ahead.
All right. Nancy.
Nancy Straw. So this is a topic that's come up a lot in our negotiation sessions. And that item number 12 on attachment A that we talked about in the service agreement, that's why that's in there. As someone who's on the community association board, we've been insistent that we don't want to be caught off guard with large swings in a budget here for either up or down. We don't want to be caught off guard because it would fall to the community association if there was a decrease in the budget. We've all become accustomed to Pelican Preserve looking and feeling a certain way. And if the budget with GSCDE changes significantly and has to be picked up by the community association, as Laura said, there's no guarantee that our non-ad valorem taxes will go down. So we could end up with our total expenses going up. And that's something that the board has been very concerned about trying to monitor. And while we understand we can't have veto power, we want to have previous knowledge and we want to understand what's happening with the dollars before something changes within Pelican Preserve that's going to impact us all in a lot of ways. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yep.
Any other comments?
Bob Gephardt. Two comments. First, I totally support what Nancy just said. But I think the whole discussion is way premature. I know that there was conversation where some certain members of district staff think that certain things should no longer be done by the current security contractor. And we're talking things like checking the town center, watching the RV park and the road. But until the Safety and Security Committee has made an opinion on this, I'm not sure why we're even talking about it. Because it could be that Safety and Security says, we're going to keep things like we are right now. And there's not going to be a change. We're not going to move the money on someplace else. We're just going to keep on trucking. I do have an opinion from the district's attorney that the board, the GSCDD board, can continue the contract that's in effect because of the overwhelming benefit that having this rover and RV and town center inspections is within the, is an overwhelming benefit to our residents.
We have not received that in writing, to be clear.
Correct.
Okay, I understand. Well, I've said this is way premature, but you will get it in writing, Chelsea, you will. But the problem is this, we have somebody that said something that they might like to consider. And now we're debating it when we're nowhere near ready to debate that. There's a lot that's got to happen. So I would just suggest okay, we got a piece of information. Let's see what happens at Safety and Security and see where it goes. Because not everybody agrees with the position that's been advocated by staff. We will leave it at that. Thank you.
I would also suggest it's quite a stretch to say that there's an overwhelming benefit to have a roving patrol extend to the RV park for about 40 spaces, but that's my opinion.
Any other discussion?
Have we thought about, I've gone to numerous communities in and out, and they have gotten rid of their actual person at the gate. They have an intercom system and that's it. And I don't know if that's not at all what people are interested in, maybe even late at night, maybe from 10 to 6 in the morning, where very few vehicles come in and out.
It gets complicated though, because those are public roads, or those are private communities.
Other
So,
communities have a system where you put your driver's license in.
Oh, yes, I know that too. Yep,
Yeah,
yep. And
but
if that
they're-
doesn't work, there's always an intercom or whatever.
they're private though.
They
And
are,
your
okay.
roads are, they're district roads, so they're public, so we can't keep people off the road. So if you
No.
would do that and someone like me would come in where I don't have a pass, you can't keep me out.
Sure.
So that would,
Okay.
which would keep us out.
Okay.
So it's a weird, it's a unique situation.
Yes, 'cause we have a main.
Yeah,
we
it's
have
a
main
unique
road.
situation.
Let's move on from
Yeah,
that.
well,
I
I
think
think like to say, hopefully safety and security, when you guys look at this, put everything out there. I mean,
I agree
there
with
should
the-
not be anything that is a, golden goose that you, I don't know, golden goose is the term, but it's sacred cow, sacred cow.
Including the security service.
Right.
When this came up to begin with, Scott Charnock came to us and he said he was dissatisfied with Securitas. And there was less than $500 over 3 years difference between their folks. We went with a low bid. And we still get nothing but complaints about security. It's the biggest issue anybody has.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we don't manage expectations correctly, or they don't get employees that will stick and actually do the job. But
Because the RVs and the boots keep on getting sold.
yeah, I mean, it's a big deal and it's a big part of our budget. So, I hate to see this kind of stuff brought up without, because there's no action item included.
How
We
do you
can talk about it, but we're wasting time.
I don't even know, but
I
I
mean,
know
is there
there
a
was somebody
date
at the
certain?
dog park that had their boat there
Well,
and he filled it up full of gas and it got stolen after he filled it up
I
full of
think
gas.
anybody
And
can
then,
drive in that RV park,
And then
right?
the
Or
camera
where
wasn't
they
even
store
working.
it.
Well, it's in the golf area.
Yeah, but it's on the main road of tree line. So when you enter, how to get in there? Is there a gate to get in there?
But they lock it?
Yes, it's locked.
So they could climb over the fence and get into an RV if
Sure.
they're breaking or.
They must be.
That road through it, Randy.
Have we ever had a documented, have we ever had a documented issue with any RV that anybody's aware of?
I know somebody's boat was stolen from.
How did it get
Is that
started?
right?
Well, are we going?
Okay, yeah, we are.
Yeah.
This is like,
And it was just meant to get some creative juices flowing. It wasn't meant to like get to this event, so not get to this level.
Okay.
Jen has a comment.
Jen,
Real quick, Jen with KW, I wasn't here at the time, but the incident with the boat was right after Ian. Like within 2 weeks, there was still no electricity out there in that gate. And so they
was
got
open.
through, yep. And there was another situation right before we came on in December where a Dodge Charger at 1 o'clock in the morning literally drove through the gate, bent the gate back and just drove in there, but didn't do anything and then left. But it costs us thousands of dollars to repair the gates. Anybody wants to get in there, they're gonna get in there,
come on,
unfortunately.
for sure.
The cameras work?
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Next one.
But not when they didn't have electricity.
So I think we did everything on 7 now. We already did 8A, so we're up to 9A.
Bike lane proposal. How's that coming? We're still talking about this.
All right.
Thank you.
I need a copy too. It has to be on the
You
record.
have yours.
I'll take another one, Laura, but fine.
Did you pass these around?
Do you have another one? That's okay.
You always have to have an extra copy. because we need to-
For sure. You made enough.
I'll give it to you when I'm done.
Okay, I need one for the record. You have
Yeah,
to make sure you
yeah,
make
yeah.
an extra, anything that gets handed out needs to have an extra copy for
I'll
us.
give it to you when I need. Okay, you want to read it? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
All right. Eight, A is the bike lane.
No, bike 9A,
All right.
bike lane.
So in the past, PPAC has voted to establish a designated bike lane out of our current universal bike lane. If you recall, just a few meetings ago, After we voted on this, the task authorization was given to Tetra Tech. They came back with a quote of about $48,000, and we said that's a hard no. And subsequently, their vice president said, well, we could do for $8,500, we could do a number of measurements. Once again, we tabled that. Subsequently, Andrew Johnson and I made measurements on Cypress Grove while we were doing a number of surveillance of problem items with the sidewalk. We clearly found that we have 4 feet, which is the Fort Myers requirement for a bike lane. And we had more than 10 feet, which is a minimum for each of the 2 passenger lanes. In addition, Dean Groves found a 6-year-old study by Johnson Engineering when all of this came up before, when PPAC chose to put in bike lanes, and the district said, you can't do that, you've overstepped your bounds, and we take them up. Subsequently, Florida Transportation has come up with a bid of $18,000 to go to the necessary engineering studies and the permitting process to allow us to move forward with this. We've had some preliminary.
So $18,000 doesn't put paint on the ground, though, does it?
Well, we've had some preliminary quotes for around $4,000 for the painting. We don't know if there'll be some additional signage required. You know, right now we have share the road signs. I'm not sure they're necessary any longer, but some of that needs to be decided. They should be minimal, but the idea behind this is we seem to have an overwhelming feeling that it's time to establish that sidewalks are for pedestrians. This lane is for bikes. Low-speed vehicles and golf carts can go on the right-hand side, and the left-hand side can be for the passenger traffic. If we vote to approve this, then we'll go to the city. We'll get an approval by the city. I've had conversations with and telephone communication with Carl Kosakis from the city as a transportation engineer. He would like to see us. He's been in favor of us making it a bike lane for a long time. But we'll do it right.
Didn't you say, Randy, that the district is the one that
Told us we couldn't.
curtailed it before?
That was way before I was
Well, it
here.
was before
so
any
I-
of
The board voted.
but there were bike lanes.
Bob, you have to wait to be called up.
Okay, I'll wait.
So would they now approve it if we go through all this work, or if they're the ones that disapproved it?
What was it? Why
Well,
did they?
because we didn't get a permit. So apparently they were going to jump, they were going to just decide on their own. Subsequently.
We're following the proper channels at this point, so.
So we're trying to do it right this time. Everything that we go through is going to get a professional engineer to justify, to go through the design drawings and so forth. They're going to go through the permitting process. They're going to give us estimates for the cost, and we're going to do it right, and it will be then established.
Okay, thank you.
So what I'm asking you to do today is to vote to approve this estimate.
Is that a motion?
From
We have the comment.
To answer Alan's question, Bob Geppert again. The last time it went through perfect process by PPAC. It went to the board as a regular item, but one member of the board convinced the rest of the board that he didn't want to do that. And the bottom line for that was Bill Guy was the supervisor, convinced the board to take out, because we already had it painted. And he went against the express wishes of PPAC. And at the time, it was because of a personal reason. That member is no longer on the board, and I think the board will support whatever you want to do.
So it wasn't the city, it was the board.
There was no other problem other than one board supervisor
Okay.
said, no, I don't want to do it.
Okay.
I ride my bike a lot. I can do 12 miles a day. My comment is most bike riders that ride their bike do not need a bike lane. They ride the street. An easy way without a lot of cost could be just making a resolution, bikers are not allowed on the sidewalk. That's all we have to say. You don't need a bike lane for bikers. People that really ride a lot on their bike are not worried about a bike lane. I mean, if they're going to the town center, they're gonna go on the left hand. You should go in the left-hand lane of traffic and make a left turn.
Well, if I could respond to that, John, if you would recall this morning at the President's Council, Bob, one of the co-chairs, specifically thanked us for continuing to try to establish this. Because a couple of things, some things have changed since this has happened. We currently are seeing golf carts that can do 30 miles an hour. We're seeing electric bikes that do upwards of 28 or 30 miles an hour. And so, the state of Florida now can categorize those as low-speed vehicles. And there's some of those that are street legal. We've seen the ones with 4 seats to them and such like this. We just think it's important to codify this because I would venture to say that there's no one who doesn't understand what a bike logo on a defined street, lined area, what that means. And it's time to get that off. We don't want, a bicycle doing 15 miles an hour that has a golf cart coming up and behind them at 30 miles an hour.
I find it just the opposite. Whereas I have to pull out into the road on my electric bike to pass the golf cart and it's going slower.
I think
If they were in traffic and the bike lane was clear, I could just pass them.
Is the bike lane only gonna be proposed on the main road?
Well, it would
Is it
be,
Cypress Grove?
on Pelican Preserve Boulevard and Cypress Grove.
Those two.
Yes, not in the neighborhoods because
Yeah,
there's no.
yep, okay.
And once again, enforcement is an issue too. I think that the people who see this recognize it, should follow the rules, but we can't enforce that. I know I've been walking before and seen bicyclists coming, on the
wrong side of the
against
road.
traffic or with traffic, in the opposite side of the road they should be. And as soon as they see another bike coming toward them, they pulled up on the sidewalk and drive around. So you can't, anytime we try to modify behavior, we run into issues.
And I do believe this is the right way that we should move forward to
Right.
legitimately say that it's a bike lane.
Yep.
And then you can choose to ride where you want.
Well, the key to this is keeping the golf carts out of that lane.
That's right, and I still see golf carts driving as far over to the right as possible. When I'm on a bike and I'm like, what are you doing?
I agree.
Get over.
Except that there's nothing that indicates that they can't. Right now, we have signs that say, share the road.
Yeah, I know.
And it's done, and that was done specifically because it was a double usage, bicycle, and golf
Yes,
cart.
it was a golf cart.
From the information provided to me by this Carl at the, city of Fort Myers.
You're never gonna get 100% compliance
No,
on
for sure.
everything. And if you designate one area as a bike lane, people,
You're exactly right. I think the best thing that we can do is if we establish this and try to extend out communications. This is what's happening now. This is what we expect you to do as far as following the rules
I'd
of
like
the
to make a
road.
motion.
And then just hope for, continue to get that word out and hope for compliance.
I agree.
Let's make a motion to approve the bike lane proposal.
I second.
We have to say to not exceed.
The budget.
Then not to exceed
Not to
18,000.
exceed
$18,300.
$20,000.
Yes, not to exceed 18,300.
Yes, you say 20.
You say
Oh, let's say, yes, say 20. Yeah.
Any discussion? You have a motion and a second.
aye.
I
I'm going to abstain.
You can't. You have to vote unless you have a personal conflict. You don't have a personal
I
conflict.
do, I ride a bike.
It's not a personal conflict.
All right, I approve.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved unanimously.
I think it's worth it.
The next item, if, I would reference that you, take a look at,
Let's do the hump.
after we have some kind of resolution with the many complaints that are going on with rumble strips. And this is a long. You know, we found what we think may be an acceptable alternative with a concrete speed hump. As you see here, I wrote a Vincenza resident safety survey because the city of Fort Myers is going to require 2/3 approval of any kind of change, whether it even be taking up rumble strips.
I think Jen has already got that 2/3 approval.
They are in Jen's possession. She has 25. I don't know, is that counting?
Yes, they're in office with your name on it.
Has it gone up?
Nope.
Okay, so, so these were, gathered by the HOA president, Kate O'Hara, Cohen. She personally visited every neighborhood, or every neighbor in home in her neighborhood and canvassed the people with this particular survey. 25 of them were in Pelican Preserve. They all were enthusiastic. They signed it in the affirmative. And the 5 that didn't, were not here yet. And you can see we made a disclosure that, you know, this was going to require, PP or a PPAC approval and Board of Supervisors approval to move forward with this. But we have, once again, a quote of about $18,800 to do the engineering drawing, the permitting process, and to get us some quotes relative. Well, the quotes would come from the district in terms of the construction of this particular speed hump. I've added a copy of what one looks like. This is a standard for the city of Fort Myers. The quote that we got on it was just under $10,000. Right, I should say the estimate given was just under $10,000 to do this. If we choose to vote to go forward with this, we can then make efforts to remove these rumble strips, even if it takes some time to get this accomplished.
It's only one rumble.
It's one.
One.
It's concrete. These are you know, the city of Fort Myers won't let you do it with asphalt. You can do some more with it. You could put stamp on it. Something it costs an additional $10,000. Might be able to build brick. It would be incrementally higher. I don't know what it would be.
You could paint it.
Pardon?
You could paint it. Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, there may be some other options that would come, you know, they will come to us after the fact.
Speed humps.
But we have a full endorsement of that neighborhood. I think everybody in the community would like to get this resolved. I mean, when I started a couple of years ago, Phil Mazie asked me to join, you know, as a liaison to safety and security and said, try to get this resolved.
Question, when you do the rumble strip, if you're coming one way, you try to put it in ahead of where people are coming out of. You're trying to slow people down before
Yes,
the
the idea.
entrance.
Yeah.
Well, what happens with the other side coming from?
Goes across the
There's-
entire.
Yeah, but you're already past the intersection.
Yeah.
You're already past their entrance into their. So you're trying to slow down after you get past them?
Well, here's, you know, that's a good valid point. I want you to remember that the location of this is coming from Pelican Preserve to Vicenza. That is district property. When you go beyond that intersection, it's now PPCA property. We shouldn't have put that rumble strips on to begin with.
The district
that
has
was-
its own path.
Yeah. Okay.
That was their
Okay.
decision, and so some of the other quotes that we got or suggestions that we got was to add one of these on PPCA property. So we said, no, that doesn't work. We need to go, we need to pivot, come back. But if you look at this, nobody's gonna be driving around going over
No,
double
because it's
lines
not
and get into traffic.
Then they're gonna be.
And
slowing
nobody's
down
gonna be
before.
going up on the grass.
But it only goes one way that you're slowing
It's
traffic.
one-
You'll-
one particular-
No.
Yes.
You'll have to slow down on the way back too. I mean, you're still gonna have the hump. It's just past the intersection.
But visualizing in your mind, the amount of distance that you have to look at oncoming traffic. If you're at that stop sign and you're exiting that neighborhood,
Sure,
not so much coming from the other direction.
sure. Okay, yep.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the concrete speed hump engineering and construction not to exceed $30,000.
Is 30,000 the correct amount?
No,
Right.
he said
20,
20 for the engineering and 10 for the
Well-
construction, is what he said.
it's 18,800.
That's kind of a best estimate. I think if we do this, if we're 18.8 now and get that done, we will get subsequent opportunities to look at the paintings and so forth.
Is there a budget for that?
For the construction, you do have a roads and sidewalk budget. So right now, I don't know what's all left in there. I don't think you put that much in there, but you can always move it from your reserves if you need to.
From the outside reserve.
Yes,
But what we have right now on the road budget is $100,000. So some of what we're doing with the expenses, an example for the roundabout at Cypress and so forth would
That
be
comes
under
out of
that
there.
budget. This could also be under the budget.
correct.
One thing that was taken off of the agenda today was a $37,000 task authorization for road work to try to establish two and redo two streets. Safety and security talked about that. We said, you know what, we need to do a lot more discussion, and we need to do a lot more planning relative to any work on the streets. So I think this is all covered. And when it comes to road repair or replacement, then we're going to need to take a look at our unassigned reserves. Because if you recall, we did the one Avila neighborhood that ended up costing about $200,000. So when I asked an engineer from Tetra Tech at the last safety and security meeting, what should we be looking at for these 9 that roads you've identified as poor or fair? He said you should look at that over 4 years. So if you use $200,000, that's $1.8 million. So, so once again, that proposal about that 2 streets just doesn't cut it. There's a lot more work needs to be done. So I believe that this would be taken from that road budget, and when we get serious about repair or replacement, then we're gonna need to make a serious dip into that on the assigned reserves.
That's also a capital issue, isn't it?
It depends on if it's an improvement, it's not. If it's a repair, if it extends the useful life, it can be. Yeah, it just depends on how it's what's done.
What can make
Because it
it?
could come out of the capital.
It's worded.
Yeah. Correct.
Well, we can approve the project and let her figure out where it comes from.
Well, right now, I think there's a motion on the table by Marty to approve this, and you had said 30,000. Did you want to change it to 20,000 since the quote is 18,800?
30. Because he said it was 18 for the engineering, and it was 10,000 for the construction.
But this
So I'll
is
keep it in. If
it's just for engineering.
he doesn't work, he can come back.
But this is just for the engineering proposal.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't my motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
My motion was for the engineering and construction of the concrete speed hump, not to exceed $30,000.
I'd like to recommend that Randy needs to make the decision on what should be.
And I'm not opposed to that necessarily, Marty, but it would prevent us for having any other kind of consideration in terms of what we may choose to upgrade in terms of the speed hump. It's fine with this. I think,
You can always bring it back.
yeah, but
Well, let's vote on
John,
this.
You have a motion on the table. Somebody either needs to second it or or you call for a vote and then it dies.
We have a second.
You can have a second for discussion.
There's no
Right
second.
now, do we have a second to Marty's motion?
I'll second it.
Discussion.
I believe we should just approve the engineering side of it, let them cogitate a bit more, come back with something that's more vague.
I agree.
And then we can approve that with no problem, because I think we're all on board.
I think Randy has the bigger handle on this thing, and that's what Randy's requesting.
Right, so you feel that way too, right?
This is, my recommendation is that we approve this engineering done, perhaps not to exceed $20,000. We will be coming back then with.
This is a safety issue. This is a safety issue. We're just dragging our feet on it.
But we're not
Let's
really
move
dragging.
forward.
This is the next step. If we get this together and we get the drawings, then the district can go out for bid.
Right.
But in that, and if we want just the standard required by Fort Myers concrete, right, then we can do that.
And then if the bid is more than we approve right now for the $30,000, then they can come back. But let's do the engineering and construction okay, because it's a safety issue. And we've lived with this for how many years now? As long as I've been here. And it's a safety issue in the neighborhood and on the street. And we shouldn't drag our feet on a safety
I
issue.
don't believe we're dragging our feet. I think we're just doing things.
We're just going through the motions of the correct.
And it'll be another month, and then another
But we
month.
can't move forward until they get the engineering.
So engineering is done first. I need to get them to get the bids. And so until we see what the bids are,
Correct.
then we'll vote on what bid we want to go with. So
And why don't we leave that up to the subcommittee once we approve the money?
It's not really a safety issue because we still have big speed bumps there right now.
It's just an annoyance.
It's just a change.
No, if you talk to the subcommittee, it's a safety issue. The security subcommittee identified it as a safety issue. Because I was there.
Let's call it as a vote and see if it is.
Any other discussion?
So what, there's two different, then Marty made a motion to do the construction or the design, permitting and construction with a not to exceed of 30,000. The agenda item is for the engineering. So there's a motion on the table right now for the not to exceed 30,000 for design, permitting and construction of the speed hump. You guys seem a little torn, so are
The words were the engineering and construction,
engineering and construction.
Let's see.
not to exceed 30,000. If they need more. they can
The
come back.
agenda item was just for the engineering and permitting of the speed hump.
So do we have to vote on?
Somebody vote either, yeah, you need to vote on Marty's motion. Or someone needs to make a new motion, because that's what's on the
No,
table
you
right
need-
now.
You
need to
need
vote on
to,
the
ra-
existing.
Finish one.
you need to call the question.
Call the question.
Vote on it.
All right, Sweden. Take a vote. Been moved and seconded.
This is the not to exceed $30,000 for the engineering and construction of the speed hump per Marty's motion.
I,
No,
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 I think we just,
I make a motion. Oh, you have to call it that it's.
The motion did not carry 1 to 5.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the request for the engineering. Detail for the speed hump. Anticipating that we will. Need to spend more, but it would be up to 20,000 at this.
I'll second that motion.
I agree.
Any discussion?
I don't think we're moving fast enough. It's a safety issue.
the one thing that
Did you vote? I didn't hear
You
it.
know, we're still discussing.
Discussing.
we're discussing.
Okay, making sure.
Uh,
I said.
The one thing, Marty, that I'm reticent about, coming up with that figure on is the fact that we currently have to have these share the road signs. What we don't know yet, and what I can't tell you yet, is what other requirements we may be forced to, comply with when it comes to, signage. And if you notice the cost of signage around that roundabout and so forth, this is expensive stuff. And so that's why I would recommend that we go this route. And as we get better information, then we can look at options perhaps. And, or we'll have a better handle on what our costs are going to do. And that doesn't, I don't see any reason why there should be any delay, because once we get that information, we can start to get solicit bids, and then we'll have some information to move forward with. That's
Any other discussion?
that's my.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a vote. Been moved and seconded.
I,
Aye.
Right, so that was the design and permitting not to exceed $20,000. All right. And your last item is to set your next agenda.
well, are we gonna have anything with the O&M?
I would hope that by next month, we should have something for you. Yeah, we're so close. I mean, we're very, very close right now. So I'm hoping that we'll have the update for you for your next meeting.
And will we have a decision on hand by that time?
You'll have it next Thursday.
Next Thursday?
Yeah, it's ready. We added it to the agenda for the board meeting next
Okay.
week. I don't see why they would say no, they never have. So I don't expect it to be an issue. I will just say that. I cannot
Do
speak
they
for the
know-
board, but I
do they
don't.
know in
Oh,
person?
yes. Yeah, I don't expect it to be an issue.
Background on it.
Yeah. Full background. Get the private eye on it.
We need to do a background check and, no, I'm just kidding.
Could you tell us what the status is regarding the new position that for the handyman?
Oh, for the maintenance person, we are actively recruiting. We got we have someone who's working over there 4 hours a week right now, and then other things as needed. If it's not like we're saying, no, we're only doing, we have a dedicated 4-hour chunk of time each week to perform the tasks that, she left. Jen and, Daniel have identified, like the cleaning up the boardwalk, cleaning, like the things that are done on a routine basis to make sure all of that gets done. And then if there's anything in between that needs to be done, we send someone over there to take care of it. We got a new public works supervisor. He started Monday. He previously worked for us as a consultant through AECom. So he's
New Public Works, isn't that Daniel?
supervisor. This person oversees all the maintenance people. The public works director is
I'm
Daniel.
sorry.
Yeah, he's the director. So we have a supervisor now who is overseeing all of our maintenance people. So he went through 153 applicants. They got it narrowed down to 9, and they have reached out to those people. We're just having a hard time getting people to contact us back when we reach out for interviews. So it's not like we're not trying. We're just having a hard time getting people to respond. We also have 2 openings in our maintenance department. So we're looking for 3 maintenance people right now. We have 2 for ourselves and 1 for you. So we're having a hard time getting people to come in to interview. So that's where we're at with that. But we do have someone for sure, at least 4 hours a week over in Pelican. And again, as things come up, if we need to fix it, we're over there taking care of it right away. Daniel and Jen are working together to make sure that there's constant communication if things come up. Things are being submitted through customer care. We're taking care of stuff as it happens. So we're not neglecting you, but we don't have your person yet. We've been trying. It's not for lack of effort. I said we call people for interviews, they just don't respond. So and it.
Can I take a straw poll here? Is everybody gonna be here for December 14th? Our next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Well, and you'll have 1 more person too, so
Yeah,
I'll
we got an
be,
extra person.
so you'll have 7. So you still need 4, but.
Just looking for a quorum.
So would you like me to, I know you asked to table it. Do you want me to, but then you talked about putting it back on there. So that would be item 7 Lima, the service provider agreement. I can put that on there just to give an update.
Well, let's
That'd be good.
keep that in front of us.
Yes, for sure.
Hopefully we'll have a final agreement by that point. So that's the plan. I said, we're so close. It's down to literally like 2 paragraphs and like 5 words right now that we're going back and forth on. So it's very close.
And then can we also start some preliminary talk about budget? I know you.
Yes.
Hear that?
No, I am, thank you. That makes me very happy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't want to do what we did last year. I felt like we were really kept getting that.
Some of it'll be a lot easier this year now that I have, now that we have access into the accounting system. I can run historical reports. I can see where we're at. I have a lot more access. Well, I have all the access to all of the data now where I didn't have that last year. The high water mark will need to be set by mid-June. My plan, I would like to have you guys pretty much finalized by mid-May. So we can do the final, so by your May meeting, so that we can do the final pruning. And if anything needs to get changed, you'll have that first meeting in June or your meeting in June to make final changes. But I'd pretty much like to have everything set in stone by May this year.
And I'd also like to have on the next agenda an update on the FPL. I know we're waiting for some cost analysis, I think.
Oh, the conversion?
Yes,
Okay, so,
so we were looking for some historical expense on what we had been spending.
okay.
I got a question. Where are we on the lights in Pelican Preserve? I heard there's a ton of lights that are, it's really dark in some of the entryways and things like that. I
Yeah,
know.
I know there's one area and
It's discussed.
there, yeah,
Oh,
Jen
okay.
got a quote for one of the things and it was like $12,000 to fix it, so we asked her to ask someone else.
Yeah.
To see if we
As soon
can.
as you mentioned that, Jen made a.
Yeah,
I'm not here. I'm not.
She's like-
She's in the process of trying to solicit.
What happened
for-
She and Daniel are working diligently to get a quote. I know we had historically used West Coast over in Pelican Preserve, but they've been a little expensive lately, not that they don't do good work, but there's some other vendors that we've reached out to get quotes to hopefully get it to be a little more palatable for the cost without sacrificing the quality of the work.
What happened to our 16-week light bulb?
It's up and lit. I've seen pictures. It's beautiful. Randy's got a smile on his face. I could feel it through the emails. It was worth the wait, you guys. It looks wonderful. It looks wonderful.
That's wonderful. 5, we need a motion. to
Okay.
adjourn.
I move, please, thank you.
I second it.
We're adjourned.
I third.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, I'm amazed that we got out.
Good.
All the-